and Liz is going to do that.
Thank you, Chair. Evening, members, members of the public. Agenda item 8, application before you is the change of use of a existing residential dwelling, which is used Class C3, into a Class C2 children's residential care home. So the change of use, it's for a maximum of 3 residents aged between the ages of 13 and 17 plus staff. There is an existing certificate of lawful use attached to the property, and that was granted on the 14th of October 2024. The applicant is requesting a planning application permission to sit alongside that to meet its regulatory requirements and to allow an extra member of staff or extra members of staff as necessary to be within the property that would fall outside the scope of the lawful development certificate. So it is operational at the moment. The first placement was from June 2021. There is a minimum 2 support staff present at any one time, operating on a 24-hour rotating shift pattern, which is sleep in, wake in inclusive. And the shift changeovers would occur between 10 and 10:30 in the morning, so not in the very sensitive hours late at night or early in the morning. The registered manager and deputy manager will be on site between 9 and 5 on weekdays. I say there's no external alterations to the proposed application. And also you will note there's been a number of objections, 12 objections to the application that raise a number of material and non-material matters, but we can confirm that since it's been operational we've not had any complaints to either the planning team or the environmental services in terms of any noise or disturbance. So I say it can operate lawfully, it is operating at the moment, this is just a regulatory requirement. So the application site is edged in red, you can see it forms part of a terrace property, and just the aerial. I say there's no TROs in place on the road, so there's unrestricted parking. These are just some of the street views. The blue star denotes the property, so you can see there's probably space for 3 cars on plot on the property, and you'll note there's only potentially 2 members of staff at any one time. And obviously the residents are going to be under the age to have a car, so these are the photos of the rear garden, and we've put those in just to show the space. And you'll note one of the comments from the objectors refers to there being a minimum, not much space because of the shed, but officers consider is quite a large rear garden for the size of the property, certainly bigger than a lot of properties. So the existing and ground floor, so it's as it is at the moment, there's no alterations. And you'll see at first floor the bedrooms would retain as bedrooms. The front one would be converted to a staff office at first floor. So the key issues are as listed in your report. You'll note that there's been no statutory objections to the application and there is support from Essex County Council. It's an important facility to meet the rising demand for child support services. There's no changes to the external appearance, and I note that because there's been some comments from objectors relating to the change in character of the property, but from the discerning eye you wouldn't notice any difference at all. As I say, it has been operational for 3 years. In terms of the residential amenities, I say there's not been any complaints lodged with the council. There would be appropriate monitoring and management of the C3 use. There would always be staff present, and they have their regulatory Ofsted and County Council requirements to meet, and those monitoring. And the levels of activity are no different to what you would expect from a residential property of that size. And in terms of highways and parking, there's no objections from the Highways Authority. So the levels are comparable to a large family house in terms of car ownership and the potential of car ownership, and there's sufficient space on the property for at least 3 cars to park off the highway. So the recommendation is as listed in your report. We have suggested a temporary permission just for it to be monitored, and they would need to come back at the end of that period if they wished to convert that to a full planning permission. Site to only be used as children's home, including otherwise when used C2, and a maximum occupancy of 3 children aged between the ages of 13 and 17. Thank you, Chair.
So we've got the one speaker. I've got Mr. Holmes. If you'd like to come forward.
Timmy, I think.
Otherwise known as Timmy. We'll call you Mr. Holmes for this, can we please? Yeah. You've got 3 minutes.
Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Yeah, hi. Thank you very much. My name is Timmy. I'm manager for Eden Homes. At the moment, the reason why we are applying for this permission is for us to transition to SIA, so Children's Home, which is more regulated because before we now have close to 3 to 4 young persons in the placement. But right now, we're moving to a solo placement where it's a one child per placement. So we're not going to be doing more than one child, which is more regulated, and we have more staff on the floor. Like you rightly saw there, the manager is there, deputy is there. Also, we do what they call matching. We can't just take a child into the building without the proper matching. So the matching is, does the child fit the risk assessed in the environment? So if a child has a risk of antisocial behavior, we do the assessment to see if the risk is high, we turn down the child. So, but however, we are going to emphasize on more proper matching. We're also looking at the noise generation. This is normal for every environment, every street. We can only regulate them now because we now have more hands on guard, like we now have more staff. So the managers work 9 to 5, deputy 9 to 5, then there's staff 24 hours on the floor. Of course, I'm happy that this is not material because we cannot quantify a young person's life to the devaluation of a building. So we're quite happy with the recommendations of what is here. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. There's nothing on there you want to clarify? No?
No, Chair.
Members, you got any questions or clarification? No? No? Discussions? Yep, okay.
Chair, at the risk of saying much the same thing, as I said last time, we know that we need residential care establishments for young people, and we're talking about 3 young people who are in need of our support, who are in need of the appropriate supportive setting, and it seems to me that this setting has already proved that it is exactly that. And we also know that statutory measures are in place to make sure that everybody is protected. So it's obvious that we should approve this. It's fairly straightforward, I think.
Okay. Yes, I have to agree to everything Kay said. That we. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Chair.
Yep.
I think this is an interesting one, given that this place has been operational for several years, and notwithstanding objections made probably at the outset, which I can often understand. It's like people always presume that you're going to have antisocial behaviour, whatever. Experience, it would seem, shows that this is not the case here, and the fact that the officers just told us that they've had no complaints whatsoever seems as though we're really just endorsing what is a fait accompli, and it's working. Thank you.
Well, having read the report, the main thing about it, the whole situation, as we know, it's been going on for some considerable time now. It's just the size of the bedrooms, the change of the style of the bedroom. That's all it actually encompasses at this moment. And, it seems to be working well. And while it's working well, and we've got the 5 years anyway, but while it's working well, I think that we should think it's a good thing to go forward with. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Leopard again.
Sorry, one last comment. To assuage anyone that's concerned about threats of antisocial behaviour, it does say on page 6, confirms that should a child become consistent in any behaviours that may affect existing residents, neighbours and the wider community, a more suitable placement for the individual may be arranged, which ties in with what the Speaker just said. Thank you.
Absolutely right. Anybody else? Councillor?
I was just going to add, obviously, I think something that's useful to this discussion in determining this application, something we haven't heard from similar applications in the past, is the matching process, which, ensures there's another layer of reassurance, isn't it, that every child placed in this home is, it's a good match. So, as we've heard, I think we're in a real safe you're in a safe pair of hands there that this is a good, there's plenty of merits to this application.
Well, I won't repeat what you've all said, but I think it ticks all the boxes, doesn't it? Oh, Maggie.
Thank you, Chair. These children are between 13 and 17. They've had a bad start in life. This has proved that they can cope, and the staff are fantastic. It's been proven. So that means that the assumptions that have been made have not been borne out by the situation that has happened since. And the safeguards, the Care Commission, Essex County, and the staff there, so that it's secure, they're living as they should be living, and in regular, quote, families, things happen in neighbourhoods in general. You can't, if you've got children, teenagers, you can't guarantee that you're not going to have problems within your structure that affect other neighbours within that family-based neighbourhood. This is something that will be looked at by everybody involved. And coming from Essex, they need to be in neighbourhoods where it's normal and that they can have a life in the garden, whatever, so that they feel that they are worthy children, adults coming up, that society accepts and not something that we make an assumption about before things happen. And if they do, it'll be resolved. Thank you, Chair.
I think you're all hit the nail on the head. It's, you know, we need houses for the boys or girls to come, and it really, at the end of the day, it's just it'll end up a normal household, you know, with 2 or 3 children. And so there is always this presumption that because they're not regular there, they might be trouble, but it's never been proved yet. So right, we go straight to the vote then. All those in favour of the recommendation, which is on page, I've lost the page. That's it. Page 14. All those in favour? Yes. It's unanimous.